Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio. Discover your spiritual gifts live.
Welcome to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, show number 58. We're your hosts, Dave and
Vialet.
Our guest today is Jonathan Tripodi. For 25 years, Jonathan has explored body memory and its relationship to chronic pain, stress, illness, and behavior. His body memory recall, BMR, approach has supported thousands of individuals to heal old wounds and experience renewing states of peace, power, joy, and wisdom. He is the author of Freedom from Body Memory and is an international educator and has BS degrees in physical therapy and movement and sports science. Welcome, Jonathan. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks, Dave.
Well, tell us about your background. How did you get to this point? I've read a little bit of other material about you that you had some accident as a child. So what happened there?
Yeah, when I was 5 years old, I was hit by a car, and that injury healed, but 26 years later, or when I was 26 years old, I started to explore bodywork techniques that accessed trauma in the body. And my accident from a child got accessed, and that opened up a whole bunch of other opportunities for me to heal that I didn't realize how much my body had stored, not only physical traumas, but emotional ones as well. And so I was so fascinated by this technique that could access things from so far in the past that I pursued it as a career.
Wow, that's very interesting. So you've been doing this for how many years now?
28 years.
28 years. Very good. Okay. And tell us a little bit more about it. So what does the process look like? How do you find that these traumas are still existing and still influencing people?
Well, there's symptoms that are more obvious physical symptoms. So if you have chronic pain or chronic stress conditions, or anxiety or depression that lasts for a significant period of time, or if you have digestive elimination problems, organ-related issues that are chronic, typically that alludes to the presence of body memory or stored or suppressed experiences that are energetic in nature. And so when we store these energies in the body, it creates chaos in the body. The body doesn't like to have these painful or overwhelming experiences, stored in it. So it tends to cause the cells in our body in general to malfunction, and that's when we get physical or mental or emotional symptoms.
Now, this goes back to any kind of trauma. It's not just being hit by a car. In your case, this could be, a woman being sexually abused as a child, things like that.
Yeah, all forms of abuse or trauma, even emotional trauma, and like you said, there's a lot of experiences that most of us might not necessarily put into the category of trauma. But once we start accessing them, we appreciate, wow, that these experiences growing up really had an impact on me, and I survived them. I got strong, I got tough, and I made my way through it and survived it. But now that I'm re-accessing it in my body, I'm appreciating that a part of me really was affected. So some people are affected, like in their voice. They don't speak out as much or express their feelings or truth because when they were younger, their coping mechanism was to be silent. Mm-hmm. Other people, like their hearts might close a little bit. They're not as open and receptive to receiving or giving love because their heart was affected growing up. Other people, it's more emotional, like they don't cry or they don't get angry or And then of course the physical dimension is always a symptom. Muscles that remain chronically tense, and that over time become painful, and then begin to the tension in the muscles begins to distort the skeletal system and even act upon the organs. And so the physical is almost always a legit symptom of body memory.
So the skeletal system interests me. There's a lot of people have mild to severe scoliosis. Do you find that as reflecting a lot of these things?
Yeah, to some degree, because the bones are just passive objects. They just sit there, and then the muscles begin to act on the bones. So they pull them. And so the question becomes then, what's commanding the muscle to pull those bones out of their alignment? And so when you look at the mind-body connection, you start to see that it's the mind, the nervous system communicating to the muscles to become tense, which then acts on the bones. And so then you have to look at, okay, well, what is it about my mind that's telling my muscle to become tense? So there's always the conscious mind, but then there's the subconscious and the unconscious mind. So there's so much communication going on in our mind to our body that we're just not aware of. And that's what you call a subconscious or an unconscious part of our mind. And that's where a lot of body memory, the suppression of body memory, the protective response, the fear to some past experience is usually dormant in the subconscious or unconscious.
Okay. If somebody's working with a postural problem and they start using the system, typically how long does it take for them to start seeing results, and especially if they're looking for a full resolution of it?
Yeah, I guess that varies depending on the practitioner as well as the person that is receiving it. But yeah, I get immediate results.
Okay.
Pretty much everybody I work with. Now, you mentioned that people are looking for full resolution, and that's true. People are anxious to feel better and move on with their life.
Sure.
And I get that. I do. But honestly, body memory transformation is a process, and it's a lifelong process.
Okay.
And so, the question becomes, how much body memory do I have to access so that my spine, if it's curved, how do I, before it gets straight? And that again becomes something that's very individual for each person. What's behind their tension is unique to each person. Their history is unique. And then body memory recall is not the only answer to the problem. So it does, body memory recall helps you get access to those hidden tensions and get them released. But after that, you have to re-educate your body. So there can be exercises or self-treatment techniques that also get added into your everyday lifestyle that help you to get into a total resolution experience.
Well, I like to look at it, for a lot of people where, if it took you 20 years to get to this point, you may have a significant time period to get back to, feeling good and feeling fine too. It's, there may be a relationship to how long you've had it to how long you're going to work on it to get it fully changed.
Yeah. And you bring up a really good point. Like, some people consider their history based on their age. So they would say, I'm 26 years old, or I'm 56 years old. It took me 56 years, that I wound this body up with some stresses. But even that is a bit of a myth.
Okay.
Because when you look at how your body is constructed, the sperm and the egg came together, and it transferred a lot of information based on your lineage. And when you look at your lineage, how far back does that go? Because that's all embedded in what might be called genetic memory. Right. And so what happens is, and we're getting a bit esoteric now, but
that's fine.
You imagine that, that's what this show's all about. Imagine that you're a soul and you're entering this body. This body already had pre-programmed into it a whole bunch of memory from your ancestral history.
Mm-hmm.
So there are patterns that we inherit, genetic patterns of behavior, patterns of thinking, patterns of feeling, physical patterns. And so what happens is you just kind of come into the body, and you're in this body, and immediately you'll start to experience these patterns that have really nothing to do with you per se, specifically, like your history, but it's the history of the body that got created. It's the history, all that genetic history. So a lot of people find themselves asking this question, like, why am I having these problems and you're not? Or so many people I know seem to be able to do these things and be athletic and be happy and be this and be that. Why am I not? And then it's not really that personal. It can actually be an inherited experience, but you're in the body, so you're there to either evolve that history or transform it, or be more or less a victim of it. And so there's an opportunity there for people. I think what I see happening and what I've experienced happening is that we're transforming human history. We enter this body and it has so much programming from thousands of years of evolution. And a lot of patterns are not necessarily healthy patterns.
Right.
There's positive gifts and abilities that we inherit, which are great. But then we also get the other side, which is all of our ancestral struggles and fears and states of consciousness that our ancestors function by, and that may or may not be working to our ultimate health and advantage. And so we inherit these patterns, and then hopefully we can find access to the inner resources to begin the transformational process of these patterns.
Well, I certainly have a multi-generational pattern in my lineage of the Calvinist work ethic. All four of my grandparents, were in the time period of the early 1900s up through the Depression years, and so a common statement from my dad was, "Well, you got to make hay when the sun shines." And my dad grew up with the viewpoint: if somebody offers you work, I don't care how many jobs you're already working, you take that work because you just never know. And so there's that real insecurity and also that nervousness about, well, okay, so I have three older brothers, they've all hit retirement, and they've all had some difficulties with trying to get into the mode of saying, I've done my time, I'm ready to go, explore the things I want to explore. And there's that nagging guilt about, well, should I still be working? Should I still be doing something? And so I can see, that part of a lineage going back many generations of, you always work, it's just part of that. And, some guilt feelings if you aren't working.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of what we're talking about. And I think that's the biggest challenge is I think most of us would rather not have inherited so many of these patterns, but yet you can't do any. We're in, the body doesn't just forget. We have to actually transform the pattern for it to change, which means we have to get involved. We have to question these patterns, right? We have to question the validity. Is this really the way I should be functioning? Was this the truth for my ancestors, or is it also true for me? And when you start that questioning process, but with the body memory transformation process, it involves a bit of psychology. Of course, your mind is questioning and also opening to new possibilities and new ways of thinking about things. But the body itself holds the physical sensations and the emotions. So even if you shift your consciousness to a new way of approaching things, your body might still be harboring the emotions and physical sensations of these patterns. And so at some point we're also having to overcome the fear of feeling what it feels like to feel guilt. There you go. Like, like to feel what it's like, even though in your mind you're like, I know I shouldn't feel guilty about this, about doing things differently. But in your mind you're that way, and then you go in your body and you're saying, but deep in my gut there's something part of me that just can't be okay with this. I feel guilty about it, or or I have fear around it. Like, what if something goes wrong? Maybe they were right, and maybe this new way of approaching it's wrong. Like, we still have to navigate feelings. And so that becomes the process of body memory transformation, is overcoming the fear of feeling, letting energies move through the body. And when you're no longer afraid to feel, it dissipates the control that those emotions typically have over us.
Well, I want to, you just used a key word, because I've been thinking about it, on calling it control. A lot of the things where you talk about people's hesitations from this stuff would be a reluctance to speak, a reluctance to do this or that. So it's kind of like there's something deficient or defective about me, I'm going to withdraw. Do you get people who go the other way, where they overcompensate? They may appear to be somewhat narcissistic or controlling or domineering, or have rage and anger just below the surface, again, out of these things. And do you work with those people?
Yeah. And that's such a great insight and a great question. Is there's the compensation is either towards passivity or it's towards over control and dominance. And then it even goes to like, for me, I was born with a predisposition towards optimism.
Okay.
Good.
Well,
it is good, and then it gets exaggerated. In my ability. So when I went through painful experiences in my life, the way I coped is I turned it into a positive, but in an extreme way, and in a way in which I wasn't really honoring, what actually was. It's a way of escaping. Positivity can be a way of escaping, and it took me a few years of doing this work to realize that my positivity is positive. So I there's nothing wrong with it, but I was underneath, there was fear, and the fear was driving the positivity to be extreme, and it was causing me to escape. So yes, ultimately I'm helping people come out of whatever coping mechanism that they have entered into to survive experiences, and rather than cope and survive, transform, which means feel and heal. Yep. So if you notice, like, coping and surviving is a reaction. I'm reacting to something, right? And so the reactivity is what I'm helping people come out of, to surrender to something rather than react to it. And it's all in the body. So you can just place your hands over these places in our body where we're still in reaction to our past and to the programming of our past and the memories of our past that were painful or overwhelming, and that are driving us to survive because we're afraid. We're trying to cope because we're afraid. So if we can overcome fear and then surrender to that which we're afraid of, then we're suddenly not coping and surviving anymore. We're transforming. Energies are flowing. Things are being felt. Things are being processed through us, and the process of information, of experiences, causes us to grow. There's a growth process that happens quite naturally, but we have to come out of the fear and the reactivity in order to get to the growth. Because otherwise, we're not growing. We're surviving.
Right.
It's two different things.
Well, it sounds somewhat like ultimate goal for you and for so many other people. If we go back to the classic book by Ram Dass, Be Here Now, and it's existing in this now, not worrying about the future, not having this stuff tying us to the past. existing right now, experiencing, and sort of being able to feel the environment, and release those filters that you have.
It is. It's body memory transformation is stepping into the past that you've carried forward in the now,
Mm-hmm.
and releasing and coming into a surrendered state around it. And then you've completed the past. So then more of you comes into the present. It's almost like 20% of us is in the present and the 80% is in the past, or 60% is in the past, and then 20 is in the future, worried that the past is going to repeat itself.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we're kind of fragmented in time, and so this is all about going back and recovering that part of you that's stuck in the past and letting it complete itself. Feel what you need to feel, process what you need to process, and then that part of you in the past is complete. So then that part of you comes into the present. So you find yourself being more and more centered in the now as you transform body memory. It's a natural outcome.
Well, I'm getting this image of somebody you're working with going over to a big chute where they pull the chain and it opens the door and allows the garbage to come through, in measured doses from the past to go through the recycling bin.
It's true. That's a great image. And I like what you said about they are in control of it in terms of, in measurable amounts. Like this is a process that doesn't happen all at once. And people are often afraid about, if I surrender, will, too much will come through. But there does seem to be safeguards in the body that regulate the amount that comes through. And there's a saying in the Bible that God doesn't give you anything more than you can handle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've seen that evident in the body in terms of the intelligence of the body. It does seem to regulate, even in the surrendered state. It only allows so much at a time to come up, so that you can process it in a good way.
Oh, that's great. Well, I think we're going to take a short break here and talk about discover your spiritual gifts and opportunities there. We're going to be right back.
Hi, I'm Vialet Rayne, Master Teacher of the Akashic Records series of classes here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. If you've been interested in the Akashic Records are the life book or the etheric records of everything that we've ever thought, spoken, done, all of our contracts, relationships since we left Source. It is a valuable resource of information that people are able to tap into to get clarity, to get guidance, just to find out why things are the way they are in their life. The Akashic really helps us do that. This is a great series of classes if you're already getting intuitive information, meaning you're either getting visuals or you're hearing things or you just know things or you feel things. This is a great class to step into to amplify the information that you're receiving from a higher level of source versus just your intuition. If you'd like to find out more about my series of classes for the Akashic Records, please check out on our website under classes and look for Akashic Record Certification. I hope to see you in class, or I hope to see you at the center here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. Have a great day and thanks for listening.
Well, welcome back to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. This is show number 58 with our guest, Jonathan Tripodi. And we're talking about his wonderful approach that's detailed in his book, Freedom from Body Memory. And so let's talk about technique a little bit. What does the technique or the process look like when people are working with you or working with your trainers? Or I assume you have other people you've trained as coaches.
Yeah, so the process begins with an interview. And essentially, you're getting a history, a physical and emotional history, and specifically inviting people to share those aspects of their history that they feel were injurious or traumatic, or in some way are still unresolved.
Okay.
Okay. And then you connect that history to their body. So
Mhm.
you always get a physical history. So you're looking to see where do they have chronic symptoms? Because typically wherever there's chronic symptoms is where there's unresolved body memory. And so then you bring that person to the massage table, and that's where you will apply the hands-on portion of the technique.
Okay.
And you place your hands over those parts of the body where the chronic symptoms seem to be most active.
Hmm.
And the touch is very specific. There's a 4-step protocol in terms of how you apply your hands. And it's done in such a way, Dave, that it communicates safety.
Okay.
And then it's also very encouraging to letting go. It doesn't force it, but it encourages it. And it allows for a transfer of energy between the practitioner and the person. So the person doesn't feel alone in that process. They feel your energy connecting with them.
Hmm.
And not only your body, but your energy. And they feel like, okay, I wasn't able or felt able to really surrender on my own, but now that I feel your energy and your touch, and it feels safe and it feels supportive and encouraging, that I'm more apt to go into that state of surrender.
Hmm.
And so the touch follows a very gradual progression from just contact only to the body. And then as the body softens in response to that gentle contact, the touch begins to deepen. And it deepens until it encounters what's called a barrier. So it can be a tension barrier. It can be, there's muscular tension, but there's also connective tissue or fascial tension. So you're feeling the activity of tension under your hand, and you stop at these barriers and you keep your pressure against the barrier for a period of time, maybe 2-3 minutes. And a person feels that. They feel like, oh, I'm now getting conscious, like I can feel my own barriers.
Hmm.
I feel his push against it. It doesn't feel forceful. I still feel his loving energy behind it. And so I'm going to breathe and enter a state of surrender and allow that barrier to give. And as that barrier gives, it allows the practitioner to add even more pressure. And so this is very progressive, where you move through barriers that start very, very subtle and then work to more deeper barriers that are more obvious. And with each barrier that's released, there's physical relief always. But at some point, the protective responses to emotional experiences starts to deactivate, in addition to the physical barriers. So there's emotional barriers too. And as those begin to open up, then people get access to suppressed memory.
Wow. Okay.
Do you ever have a time where people don't remember? Because, some people go through trauma in their childhood and they block the memory, like they have no memory that occurred. So they don't know that it's stored in their physical. Their reaction to it, or their safety net, was to forget it, to block it out. So I know with my clients, sometimes there are periods of time in their lifetime that they have no memory, which is a key indicator that something happened there, that they blocked it out because they couldn't face it. Do you find that sometimes clients come to you with physical pain and it's connected to something that they don't even remember at that point?
Yes, absolutely. You kind of gave a voice to that in a really good way. People are very aware of their reaction to what happened, but their reaction to it is creating physical and anxiety, depression, physical symptoms. And so the physical body speaks quite loudly. So they're aware of the symptoms, but they're not always aware of what's behind the symptoms. Because as you pointed out, that's one of the ways people cope, is they dissociate or disconnect from the actual event. And people will say, yeah, like I don't remember from age 6 to age 10, I don't have any memory of that part of my childhood. Or they'll say, you know, I was in this car accident, but I don't remember the car accident. I was unconscious, or I woke up in the hospital. Like there can be lapses in memory. So I would say, you know, even when I entered this training myself many years ago, I was excited by the concept. But when I thought about myself, I was like, I'm not quite aware of any memory that I'm suppressing.
Right?
So there's, you know, that's just, you just think, I just thought I was doing pretty good. You know, I had a few rough patches, but nothing serious. So I would say 90% of what's encountered in the body, if you pursue that path, will be on, you won't be conscious of. You'll be surprised. Some of it'll come up and you'll go, oh yeah, well that makes sense. Now that I'm remembering it now in my body, I'm remembering that, yeah, that was quite painful. But a lot of it is unconscious. So some people come with, they'll say, you know, I'm depressed. I've had chronic TMJ. My jaw's been hurt. I've had several surgeries. I've had these challenges in my life, in relationship, or in my work. They'll list all the symptoms, but they'll say, you know, I can't really say why it's happening. I can't connect the symptoms to memories. And they'll, you know, of course, they go to the medical model, and the medical model is trying to determine the cause on a physical level. So they're looking for, you know, diseases and abnormalities in the physical body and hormonal challenges and other chemistry things, but they're not looking at memory. And so a lot of people will come with a list of symptoms, but be really kind of clueless about like what's really behind this, because the medical model, I've exhausted it and I've done everything they've said and I still have problems. And this is a classic sign of body memory being the source of your symptoms, is when you've already done all the other things. You've done the right diet, you've taken the right pills, you've done the right exercise, you've maybe even pursued chiropractic or acupuncture and other types of methods that are more energetic and maybe mechanical. But if none of these things have given you access to suppressed memory and you still have issues after doing all of this, most likely this relates to unfelt and suppressed emotions from your past that you've just forgot about.
Or that you think you've worked through. Because I know Dave and I are both healers. And I love it when we meet people and we're like, you still have some healing to do. Well, I've already done all my healing. I've already done that. I've completed that. I'm ready. I've got that. I've overcome that. And you're like, I don't think we ever completely finished, because we have all of our ancestor stuff and all that stuff coming through and our own stuff. Or I made it through that. I don't need anything. I was a strong person. I got through that. And it's like, we want to ignore it. Like that doesn't exist. Like we're okay. We're just fine and dandy out here. And what we don't realize is it's so important. And I love how you talk about winding the energy. You have to unwind it, because I've seen that in my work where it winds up and it tightens. You know, I was told one time when I was younger, you keep stuffing that in that pot, putting that lid on it, your emotions, you can only stuff so much in that pot.
True.
Right? And that pot's going to explode someday, and you're going to wonder what happened. And it's because you've been doing this for years. I'm a strong person. I can handle this. I can get through this. I'm just going to put this away because I don't have time right now to kind of explore this. So I'm just going to keep sticking it in here, which impacts our physical, because and then it really gets stuck and stored in there because we didn't work through it. And I meet clients today that something happened 30 or 40 years ago, and I'm sure you're seeing that too. And they're like, oh, I've already taken care of all that. It's all taken care of. I'm good. And it's like, maybe not, right? And I think it's about being honest with ourselves. And, you know, it is a lot of the fear that you talk about, that we're afraid to look at that. That's why we pushed it way back here, to ignore it, to move through it. And I think the universe is asking us to step up and look at it, not for just ourselves, but what about our children? Because we passed that down through generations, just like it was passed down to us. What can we clear and work out for us and our family and all of that? Because I feel like, and I don't know in your work, but when I do healing, my family benefits, all of them. It's part of that. Right. So if I can take care of me, it helps them take care of them. Right. And see what they can do as well. So do you see that sometimes where where you go and look at stuff and people are like, oh, I've already taken care of that. I've already dealt with that. We're looking at this now. How do you work people through the fact that that still exists, that we still need to look at that it's still there?
You know, the main thing that I encourage people to do in their approach to their body and to the memories in their body is just be open. Don't make conclusions, because it's not necessary. It's not necessary to say, I'm done with that, or I'm not done with that. It's let the body tell the story. Okay. So if you're open and you lay on a table and go into a surrendered state, and something comes up that you thought you were done with, then it must still be there. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't come up, then maybe you are done with it. So the idea would be that we're not going to get in our heads about whether we're done or not. We're going to stay centered in our bodies, because our body is where the truth lies. Mm-hmm. And if ever you're wondering what's going on in your body, you just have to go into it to find out. And so that's the main thing, is just stay open and, don't perseverate in your head about whether you're done with something or not. Just, let transformation be a lifestyle, not an event. Let this process of transformation be something that you cultivate in your everyday, so that you're not looking to be done with it. It's like you said, if you're not transforming your own experiences from this life that you remember, you're working on your inherited memory that came through your ancestors when your body was conceived and programmed. So there does seem to be not a never ending. I also don't want to use that word because again, I like to think that there's this state of enlightenment that we read about, the Buddhas and the Christs and the other enlightened beings, that represents a potential in all of us to unravel all the knots and find ourselves reunited with the truth of who we are in oneness with all that is. But there are knots to unravel, and there's a lot of them. And the other great thing is that our body is designed for this. It's not like it's something that we have to make happen. We have to allow it to happen. It wants to happen. And that's one of the main messages I wanted to give on this talk show of yours, this podcast. And it's the main one I've been wanting to deliver after I had the first experience of unwinding myself. There is a power inside of us. It's an intelligence that not only allows us to survive, but it transforms us as well. But if we get stuck in survival, we miss the other benefit, the transformational benefit. And to transform, we have to surrender our will, our control over our body and our emotions and our energy. That control helps us to survive, but it interferes with our ability to transform. So when we let go of control, and to the extent of not just relaxing our body, but surrendering control on a deeper level, then that intelligence within us that wants to transform us starts to take over. And it begins to liberate us of all of these memories, entangles these knots in our physical body, in our emotional body, and in our hearts and throats and guts and everywhere. It just unravels us because it's taking us back to our original blueprint, are the original blueprint before the knots entered our system. And it's unraveling our past and our history and our ancestry, but then we get back to something very original. And that to me is the enlightened state. And I think that's, when you look at enlightened beings or read about their lives, they were in the process of unraveling too. They just got to the final knot, and they entered a very high state of consciousness. So again, I recommend to people, look, get out of your head, because that's where we go to survive. You don't have to figure out all the memories you're holding on to. You don't have to figure out whether you're done with something or not done. All you have to do is trust in the higher intelligence within you that wants to transform everything that ever happened to you, every knot, and unravel every knot and return you to your highest state of being, an enlightened state. So all you need to do is say yes. Just keep saying yes. No is survival. Yes is transformation. Yes is healing. Keep going in. Your mind will want to get involved constantly and want to be in charge and want to figure everything out ahead of time. And yes, you're absolutely right, Vialet. It is fear that drives the mind to want to preconceive answers and make conclusions and create this illusion of safety so that we can feel like, we're done. And once you realize that that's how the mind functions, then maybe you don't give it as much power. And you start giving more power to your heart and your spirit and your soul and these mysterious aspects of our nature that are really, really intelligent, that are seeking to transform us utterly if we say yes.
I love that.
Very nice.
Yeah, really great. So I noticed on your website, you do some couple type retreats and stuff. Share a little bit about how these work and what the purpose and the focus of those are, because I was fascinated with those as well.
Well, this came out of a lot of couples transformation myself, like me and my relationships. And, initially I was thinking transformation was a career path for me. And then when I wasn't working and I was at home, I was doing something different. I thought, now I'm going to relax. Now I'm going to have fun. Now I'm going to have joy with my partner. And what I realized is that transformation was happening in my relationships as much as it's happening in my work. And that's when I was like, I have to concede to what's really happening here when two people come together and choose to live together and spend their lives together, is they're going to be instigators for transformation. They're going to bring out your stuff, your knots. They're going to bring out your history and your patterns and your fears and your coping mechanisms, and are all going to get triggered. And if you're open to relationship as a path for transformation, if you can look at your partner as your guru in some ways, as the person who's going to bring this out for you, you can grow exponentially. You can really, really grow. If you resist that, then you're fighting all the time. And now the person you love is also your enemy. And then that creates walls of separation, and that creates a lot of pain in your heart. The very person you love now, you feel separate from. And so part of what I do in the couples workshops is help people begin to appreciate each other as opportunities for their own inner healing and transformation. And I give them tools, communication tools, number one, but also paradigms so that they can begin to see clearly how each other is working in each other's lives to help them not be worse, but to feel better, to grow, to transform from these things that they're holding on to in their past. And if they enter into now a partnership where they're partnering around transformation, and I give them tools to do that. So it's really, really a wonderful experience to embrace your partner on that soul level, that you're not just here to make my life easy or to make it happy all the time. You're going to bring up things that I need to let go of and feel and to unravel and liberate myself from. And I'm going to say yes to that. And I'm going to, and I'm going to do that for you. And we're going to do that together.
I think that's awesome. Awesome. So do you have any more questions, Mr. Dave, that you want to follow up? And then we'll have Jonathan share what all his offerings are.
Well, let's go to his offerings. You offer many things. You're down in Sedona, but it looks like you also travel to other places. So we certainly need to hear about that. One of them was mentioned was Marble, Colorado. I haven't been there, but I know why it has its name, because of the marble quarries. So.
Yeah, so I have a variety of services. One is one-on-one healing intensives. So I work with clients 3 or 5, 7 days, and they come stay in Sedona, and I work with them one-on-one. And we do morning and afternoon sessions for a few days. The other is the unwinding retreats. So these are opportunities for people to come and be a part of a group and learn the body memory recall techniques and apply them on each other and experience the transformational benefits. And then I have BMR training courses, which are more for practitioners, people who want to learn these techniques on a deeper level and apply them as a service, as a healing service. In addition, I'm in the midst of putting together online training called 365. It's a membership service that gives you access to an audio and visual archive of self-treatment tools so that you can begin to incorporate some of the freedom from body memory techniques that I've learned over the years at home. So you can do them on with yourself at home.
Awesome.
Very cool.
If you're ever in Denver, Jonathan, we would love to have you at our center. We have a beautiful center, and have you come in. Talk to us a little bit. I believe there's a book. You've written a book that's coming out. Is it out? Is it coming out? What can you give us on that?
Oh yeah, that was out, I think, in 2006. It's called Freedom from Body Memory. And if you're interested at all in the topic we've just shared, that's a great follow-up, and it'll give you a lot of great, rich information about the body memory process. And it's available on Amazon. It's in written form. You can get an audio book, or you can get it on Kindle as well.
Awesome. Well, I love coming to Sedona. So next time I'm down there, I'll have to connect with you. I'd love to meet you in person.
Oh, I would love that too. And I'm also happy to come to Denver. And if you want to discuss maybe hosting a course or some event at your clinic, I'd be honored to come.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That'd be
great. Awesome. It's been really awesome getting to meet with you and chat with you on your techniques and what you offer. I think it's very amazing. So thank you for taking the time today to connect with us. And I always give an invitation to my guests. If you're ever in the area, stop by and see us. We'd love to meet our guests in person. And Denver is kind of an area where people come to occasionally. So it gives us an opportunity to meet people.
Well, thanks, Vialet. I would be honored. And I do get through Denver every once in a while. So I will look you up.
Awesome. I would love that. Well, thanks for sharing with us today and being part of this. So we really do appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you both for doing what you're doing and creating a platform to spread awareness for opportunities for healing. And, the planet, we all need it. We all need help, and we all need methods and approaches that can fit into our life to help us feel better and evolve and grow as a human being. So thank you both.
Well, thank you. And for our listeners, Jonathan's website for more information is Jonathan, JONATHAN, Tripodi, TRIPODI.com. And you can find everything you need to know there. So for all our listeners, thank you for listening today. Our next guest will be Lightning Horse. Also, her name is Veronica Perez. And please stay with us for messages from several of our practitioners at DYSG. Have a great week.
I am Lisa Laney, two-time international best-selling author, teacher, intuitive artist, reader, and healer at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. I am a very creative, artistic person who has been an intuitive empath my whole life. As a child, I was always aware of energy. I could detect shifts as people entered the room, which I thought all people could do. I didn't realize I was an empath until much later in life. I have studied various modalities, attended several retreats to peel back layers of childhood experiences to create a toolbox I use to navigate this world with intention. I am now pairing my intuitive gifts with my creativity to live an intentional life and empower other women to shine their brightest light, to manifest an abundant life with creativity and intention. If this resonates with you, join me at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts the first Thursday of each month at 6:30 at my Women's Intention Play Shops. The focus of each class varies on a different intention to heal, inspire, and empower each of you with a simple art project. In this class, we set the intention into what you create, so when you bring it home, you are reminded of what you are manifesting or releasing each time you look at it. This keeps the energy moving, which helps you create a more empowered version of yourself. If you prefer one-on-one time, I offer intuitive tree readings. You simply draw me a tree any way you feel guided. Coupled with your intention, we edit the tree so you have a visual of how you want to create a life of joyous empowerment. If this is calling you, I can be reached at 720-257-9441 or at lisaelani.com. Tap into your inner magic to create an amazing toolbox of your own by joining me, Lisa Elani, at Discover Your Spiritual Gift.
Hello, my name is Trina Schneider, and I am a spirit medium and intuitive reader. I also offer angelic Reiki and crystal healing. I was born an empath and have seen and heard spirits since I was a little girl. For many years, I ignored my gifts, but knew I was meant to be a healer. I started my journey doing private yoga sessions, and yoga helped me to reconnect with my mind, body, and spirit. I was then led to an intuitive mentor and took her classes to find out who I was and what my spiritual path should be, never thinking it would lead to a complete career change after being a hairstylist for 30 years. My spiritual path is a never-ending journey of healing myself and helping others. I consider my readings to be sacred and use prayer, meditation, and call upon my ancient Puebloan ancestors, angels, and other guides. In my readings, I view your energy through a rose. I connect you to your relevant past lives, bring in messages from your spirit guides, angels, and ancestors. I read the layers of your aura through your chakras to uncover blocks, bring in clarity, guidance, and direction for your life path. I do in-person readings at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts and remote readings over Zoom. To book your readings with me, please call or text me at 720-334-7754 or contact the center. I look forward to meeting you real soon.
Hi, my name is Heather McCormick-Ramey, and I'm a medium and energy healer. I love helping people connect deeply with spiritual messages, with ancestors, and all of that amazing support that is surrounding them. Now, Spirit started working with me at a very young age, and as I created more and more space for those messages to come through, it's been a really life-changing experience. And this is what I offer to my clients. So if you're interested in mediumship, look to book at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. I'm there as a reader, and I also have practitioner hours as an energy healer. With the energy healing, I help my clients bust through limiting beliefs and really live their soul-aligned life. So please reach out to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts if you're interested in learning more and connecting deeply with your soul's purpose and spirit. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio.